Silicon Valley Bank has failed. So is it finally time for Bay Area home buyers and sellers to panic? Coming up on this Silicon Valley Snapshot. With the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and other banks here locally and around the globe experiencing liquidity issues like Fremont Bank, it raises the question, how will this impact the housing market, especially here locally? Well, we have all that data. We actually have the real-time data. It's been a week since Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, and so we're going to get into that data. But before we get into the real-life data here, if you're a home buyer in today's marketplace and you're looking for a comprehensive data set to assist you in your home buying decision-making, just like the data that we're showing you right here on this screen, you can text the word data plus the area or the neighborhood or the zip code that you're looking in, and we will get all that information sent straight to your inbox. And if you're a home seller in today's marketplace and you're trying to figure out, is now the right time to sell my property? Spoiler alert, it's probably not. But when is the right time to sell your property? And if and when that happens, what should we price it at? All those questions and more will be answered when you text the word data plus your property address to the number down below. When news broke last Friday of Silicon Valley Bank's collapse, I'll be the first to admit that I was a little bit rattled and concerned with the impact that this is going to have on the housing market here in the Bay. Since then, however, we've seen a lot of things happen that should be reassuring to both home buyers and sellers alike here in the Bay Area that the market in the short term will react to this, but in the long term, we might see some benefits from all of this, which is horrible to even say, but there might be some benefits, especially if you're a home buyer who is prepared to make an offer right now. But just for fun, let's go on Google and look at all these news outlets and look at their fear-mongering headlines, because let me tell you, they're pretty funny. All right, so Fox News. Silicon Valley Bank collapse will definitely impact real estate, developer warns. Okay, so this article was a recap of a 7-minute long interview. I'll link it down here below in the description here on YouTube. Fox News was interviewing Royal Palm Company CEO Dan Cozy, and nowhere in the 7-minute long video did he ever mention residential real estate. They were talking specifically about commercial real estate in this video. You can watch the video for yourself, and he does make some very good points. He does make some very good points in the video, and certain sectors of the commercial real estate could get impacted by the fallout of the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. Of course, if you just read the headline, you're like, oh my gosh, real estate's gonna crash. Silicon Valley Bank collapse will definitely impact real estate market. Okay, awesome. Cool. Next article written by Bloomberg. SVB is a nail in the coffin for Bay Area housing market's gold rush. All right, so let's read this article. We're going to skim it real quick. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank has dealt yet another blow to San Francisco's depressed housing market, dashing agents' optimism that conditions would finally start to improve. If you've been watching this channel, you'll know I've been very optimistic about how this spring market was starting to unfold. This is going to put a damper on things, at least in the short term. There's no denying that. This will affect consumer sentiment. And when you talk about consumer spending, when you talk about buyer demand, and when you're talking about inventory levels, consumer sentiment affects all of that. And when Silicon Valley Bank collapses, some Silicon Valley home buyers and sellers will instantly go into panic mode. Not a single buyer has expressed interest in going out. Nina Hadbatny of Compass said on Saturday. I'm so sorry, Nina, if I butchered your last name. Before it was clear that Silicon Valley's depositors would be able to access all their assets. This was last weekend while all of that turmoil was going on and we didn't know whether or not they were going to get bailed out or whatever. Sellers are like, I better sell before it gets worse, and buyers are not engaging. Of course, it's reactionary behavior. It always has been, always will be. The market responds, and it always responds very dramatically. So now something to note here is that I did research Nina and where she's located. She sells homes in San Francisco. So we're going to look at all the data and the trends from all different counties. San Francisco and especially San Mateo County has experienced the most fallout right now in this moment from the collapse of the bank. And here we go. When people get in a panic mode, it's bad for consumer spending, particularly for the housing market, said Selma Hepp, chief economist of real estate analytics firm CoreLogic. The outlook has improved some in the past few days, and one side effect of the banking industry turmoil has been a welcome cooling in the mortgage rates. Yes, mortgage rates have come down, and they came down. The response was almost immediate by the Fed. Let's stimulate the economy. Let's encourage people to get back out there. An artificial manipulation of the market, as they always have done. The article goes on to say, if somebody's very risk averse, they're saying, I'll see you next year. Very true. If someone is just like, I don't want to risk it, they're going to wait. Problem is that whenever we decide that it's not risky, we're always on the upswing. So most people who are risk averse are actually buying in worse conditions. Worse conditions. More often than not, risk averse individuals end up screwing themselves over because the people who make the money are the ones who take the risks. Sorry, it's true. Oh, one Compass agent says that his clients actually had a pre-approval from SVB and First Republic Bank for a $4 million home purchase, and they decided to put their home search on pause. Well, yeah, I mean, if you have two pre-approvals and both those banks are in jeopardy, like one's collapsed and one's in jeopardy, like, of course, you're going to put your home search on pause because like you got to get pre-approved by another bank. Or maybe they're just going to be like, hey, this is a sign or an omen that like we shouldn't be buying right now. And fine, like omen away. The other who'd been looking in the idyllic towns around Stanford made an offer on a home that was accepted within hours on Sunday, just 2 days after regulators seized SVB. And by the way, so this is very interesting to point out. I had many friends in the industry this last weekend posting 50 groups, 60 groups, 70 groups in the open house in Santa Clara County, in the Peninsula, and in the East Bay. So when we talk about the immediate after effects, this isn't like some sort of like doomsday scenario where it was a ghost town this last weekend for the real estate market. Absolutely not. Of course, there are some buyers who have retracted for obvious reasons, and that's great for them. But if you're a buyer right now, I want you to pay attention to the next 10 minutes and look at this data, because the data will explain to you exactly why we shouldn't be moving away from the market right now. If you're not directly impacted, your finances are not directly impacted by this whole fallout and collapse. Some people will pause and not proceed until there's further assurances that Americans can have faith in banking institutions. Fair. Others will see it as an opportunity to close on a sale. And yeah, absolutely. There will be some individuals that are going to hold tight and just kind of let things fall where they may and then re-enter the market once they feel like things are getting better. That being said, rates have come down. Buyers have withdrawn. Some buyers have withdrawn. So if you're talking about ideal market conditions for buying a home, you talk about rates going down, awesome, and competition going away, double awesome. It seems to me like now would be a logical time to like go into the market when everyone else is away. Investors who bought in 2009, all their friends were calling them crazy, saying, you are the most idiot of idiot friends I've ever had in my whole life. You shouldn't be buying this house because didn't you hear the world's on fire? Well, guess what? Those people are millionaires now if they bought a home here in the Bay Area, or 2 or 3. Chaos creates opportunity. Chaos creates opportunity. And let me tell you, it's chaos out there right now. All right, and finally, actually a positive headline. A top real estate economist breaks down how the Silicon Valley Bank failure can push more homebuyers into the housing market as mortgage rates fall faster than expected. The article in summary is exactly what the headline suggests, which is data that shows the interest rates are falling a lot faster than was predicted initially. Initially, the rates were predicted to fall late 2023, and now a lot of that projected decreases already happened now in the last week, which is great. So there is plenty of reason for homebuyers to be excited about the prospect of getting a home right now while others are panicking, and at the same time locking in a better rate than they could have even a week ago. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. And I know I've gotten a lot of hate here on the YouTube channel recently, people saying that I'm a salesman and that I only want to sell you a house. Listen, like the vast majority of the people who watch this YouTube channel will never buy or sell a house with me. I mean, I've accepted that, right? Many people come here for information, and awesome. Like, I'm glad that I can bring value to you in some way, shape, or form. However, what matters more to me than selling people houses is being historically correct. And if you look back at this channel over the last 4 or 5 years that I've been posting, historically, I've been right way more than I've been wrong. In fact, I can only remember one time that I've actually been wrong in my prediction and in my analysis. Now, obviously, when I said spring of 2023 was we were going to get an early spring market, guess what happened? We're going to see in the data right now, February kicking off, and in some counties, we saw pendings and inventory levels flip-flop for the first time in many, many months. What I couldn't predict, and obviously I had no insight or foresight into, was this collapse. And this collapse will temporarily put a damper on the real estate market here. And it could be a month, it could be a few weeks, it could be a month, it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be longer, although I highly doubt that. So with all that being said, looking at those headlines, the point to drive home is that everyone's saying like, yeah, temporarily it's going to be a bad thing, but like actually there seems to be a lot more good that can come from it than bad. And I would agree, at least for the time being. Of course, like things can change because we know when things change, they change quickly. And especially in a volatile time like this, we could see things get worse before they get better. And so we will see what happens here. But if everything remains the same right now, if no other bank goes under or there's no other crazy run on a bank or anything like that, then in all likelihood, I don't see it being like a long-term problem. Let's dive into the Santa Clara County numbers. We had 761 homes pending in February and 658 homes on the market. So for the first time, if you look on that graph, for the first time since April of last year, we have more homes pending in the month of February than active on the market. So if you put your home in contract in February, you likely got an amazing price. We were seeing stories of sellers getting 5 offers, 10 offers, couple $100,000 over list price. Not as crazy as it was at this time last year, but still pretty crazy. Now, here's what I want us to pay attention to. When we look at last year from February to March in terms of growth on pending sales, we saw nearly a 50% increase in pending activity from February to March. We weren't expecting anything close to that this year because last year was crazy. The increase in inventory was very nominal last year, about 100 homes or so. But this year, this is where we can start to see the impact. We can start to see the impact of the SVB collapse. So month to date, month over month, we are looking at inventory levels increasing 8%. So that's about on par with what we saw last year from February to March. So that's actually pretty normal. But when we look at pending activity, we're actually down 4.8%, which is not good. So exactly what we talked about before, this is going to impact consumer sentiment. It's going to impact demand more than it does supply, at least right now. Although I believe that it will impact supply more in April. And right now in March, it's going to impact demand more. Why? In March, we're seeing rates fall down pretty dramatically. I think that's going to stimulate some more spending here in April. And at the same time, because of the contraction of the market, because of the contraction of the demand, sellers are going to start paying attention and noticing like, oh, my neighbor's home is sitting on the market for a little bit longer than it did in February. What, honey, like, I think we should hold off on putting the home on the market. So that's why I think right now we're going to see pendings pull back in March. And then in April, we're going to see active listings pull back. And then maybe by May, June, July, we'll get back to equilibrium, assuming that nothing else crazy happens, which never say never. All right, going on up to San Mateo County, and pay attention, everyone, because this is where it really starts to get interesting. 345 homes active on the market versus 274 homes pending. So not the same story, where last year at this time we had more pendings than inventory levels in February. This year we didn't get that crazy. Now, if we look at last year from February to March, we see a rather sharp increase in pending activity. We're looking at about 25% or so increase month over month from February to March in pending activity. Now, if we look at inventory levels, a very nominal increase. So again, a nominal increase month to date, month over month here in 2023 of 6.5%, but a 25% decrease in pending activity month over month. That's a problem. And by the way, this should not be a surprise or a shock. Silicon Valley Bank, First Republic Bank, 2 banks in the headlines right now, have lots of clients in the Mid-Peninsula and in Santa Clara County, but like especially the Mid-Peninsula, where a lot of those tech companies, a lot of those startups that Silicon Valley Bank was either investing in and or had like client relationships with. It makes perfect sense why that segment of the market has retracted more than any other segment, more than any other county. So same thing. Who knows how long this will take? Maybe it'll take 2 months. Buyers might be a little bit more rattled in San Mateo County. Now, if you are a savvy buyer, you understand that chaos creates opportunity. That looks like opportunity to me, doesn't it? I'm just saying. Now we surf on down to Santa Cruz. We see 164 homes active on the market in February and 101 homes pending. Looking back a year ago, from February to March, we had an increase of about 35% or so from February to March of last year in pending activity, and a slight increase in active inventory, probably about 3-4%. So this is actually one of the counties that's performing a little bit better than anticipated. 3% active inventory month over month. Month to date is down 3%, while pending activity is up 16.3%. month to date, month over month. So from February to March now, we're seeing a 16.3% increase in activity level. And by the way, that's taking into account all of the storms and all of this. I mean, it is really bad down there right now from some of the pictures and videos and things that I've gotten from my team members down there. And wow, it doesn't look that great. But despite that, and despite the challenges and the economic turmoil that we're facing right now, still people are buying in Santa Cruz. This should be good news, especially if you're a home seller. And also something to keep in mind, look at the inventory levels as well. We're dropping off a little bit. That's very rare from February to March. That probably has something to do with the storms. So if you're a home seller and you're kind of thinking like, well, should I do this or should I not? Like, now might be a good time to seize the market just based on the data that we're seeing here. Although I should preface this by saying like, it also depends on your specific neighborhood because this is county data. And anytime that we go in and we speak to a seller that wants to sell their home with us, we are doing an in-depth analysis, not just of like the county, but of like their specific zip code and their specific property type to get a better idea, like a better litmus test of what's actually happening in their neighborhood right now for their property. San Francisco, in February of this year, we had 771 homes active on the market and 293 homes pending. If we look at last year, a very small jump in terms of active inventory, about a 5% or so increase in inventory levels and about a 15-20% increase in inventory or in pending activity. Now, if we look at what's going on right now, we're seeing same thing, basically supply and demand month to date, month over month this year, rising in tandem. It's important to note that when we were reading that article before, the agent that said that her open houses and like the activity was dead, it was in San Francisco. So either one of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to see that pending month to date, month over month number decrease as the month goes on, or she just had like a weird, like there was like a weird thing happening with her open house that day. Because the thing is like sometimes we like to make, as realtors, we like to make judgments on like one micro set of data, right? Like, oh, like my open house was dead, therefore the market's dead, which, you know, usually is not a very good or accurate way of measuring the vitality of the market. So interesting to note that this is saying something a little bit different than what was said in the article. And that being said, I mean, we're still in a position where market conditions aren't that great in San Francisco if you're a home seller. Let's just face it. Lots of inventory, a little bit of demand, but like not nearly enough to keep up with the supply, at least not how we were used to with the San Francisco years of like 2014, 2015. Things are a little bit different now for homeowners in San Francisco. I still believe that SF, one of the better places to invest in right now as a home buyer or an investor. SF, definitely a great place to invest. Now heading on over to the East Bay, Alameda County, inventory levels are at 623 homes in February and pending activity is at 583. So if we notice, pending and inventory levels are getting much closer. Pendings have not surpassed inventory levels, however. And if we look at the month-to-date data, if we look at last month's data, we see that pendings went from 940 to 1253. So that's a massive increase of about 30 to 40%. And inventory levels were basically like the same from February to March. Now this year, we see inventory levels are basically the same. So things are behaving very similarly on the inventory side of things in Alameda County. And pending activity is up, but it's only up 2%. So it's not nearly as crazy as it was last year, but the market conditions are stable in Alameda County right now. Time will tell if that pending number drops, we start to see buyers retract even more, or if we see more of the same and we see more stability, neutral market conditions in Alameda County. And then finally in Contra, Costa County, 678 homes on the market, 645 homes pending. So pending's very close to inventory levels, almost a 1-to-1 absorption rate there. And if we look at the February to March of last year, 1,001 homes to 1,309. So pending activity went up about 30%. And if we look at the inventory levels, those went up about 15 to 20. So inventory levels are down, which is actually like very good news if you're a home seller for month to date, month over month. So 2.9% decrease in inventory levels, and pendings have actually increased 11.9%. So this is actually a very good and healthy market right now. The vitality is still there and the demand is still there. The demand is still increasing. Now it's not increasing on par with where it was last year. But of course, that was never going to happen. I mean, like, we are definitely not in the market of 2022. This is a different time. But Contra Costa seems to be a little less impacted than Alameda County, than San Mateo County and San Francisco County and Santa Clara County. Buyers are actually still buying right now in Contra Costa, whereas almost everywhere else, besides Santa Cruz, we're seeing buyers kind of retract a little bit more than we were expecting them to pre-SVB collapse. In summary, what we're seeing right now in real time are buyers retracting, specifically in San Mateo County. We're seeing it a little bit less in Santa Clara County and Alameda County. And in Contra Costa, San Francisco, and Santa Cruz, seeing a little bit of a different story there. But if you are a buyer in Santa Clara County, in San Mateo County, or in Alameda, look at this as an opportunity to seize great market conditions for yourself. Because as the article said, this isn't going to last forever. In fact, next week, I'm going to be shooting a reaction video to Barry Habib's keynote speech at a real estate conference that I was at the same day that SVB collapsed. I was there watching him give real-time information on how frothy the market conditions are going to be in the summer and fall. And those of us who are a little bit more risk averse and choose not to buy until next year could see a little bit of a surge here towards the end of the year, especially if rates keep falling and there's no more crazy headlines that cause consumer sentiment to come down even more than it is right now. Sellers, I would recommend that you hold off for a little bit, honestly. What I'm seeing here is probably like a 60 to 90 day period that you should be waiting. The good news is that when the market picks back up, whether it be May, June, July, there's gonna be a mini spring market in that season too. There'll be pent-up demand. There'll be buyers who didn't buy that need to buy, especially in the summertime, which is typically not the best time to sell, but maybe this year it will be. And you can count on the Silicon Valley Snapshot to bring you the latest data and information to keep you up to date on all things Bay Area housing market. If you made it this long in the video, first of all, wow, this was a very long video. So thank you for the support. Thank you for watching. I hope you got some value out of it. And as a token of my appreciation, you can text the word free shirt to the number down below. That's free shirt to the number down below. And we will send you a free Selling Silicon Valley t-shirt to your house. All I ask is that before you text in, you click that subscribe button, the little notification bell, and give us a thumbs up. It costs you nothing, but it helps us get in front of more Bay Area home buyers and sellers just like you. This is Danny Gould, everyone. I am Selling Silicon Valley, and I'll catch all of you in the next Silicon Valley Snapshot.